Good evening guys, and welcome to another video where we're going to be talking about theories from the world of Subnautica. Now, when exploring the dark depths and intricate caverns that can be found throughout the crater on planet 4546b, I think at one point or another we've all asked ourselves the big question: is there something bigger out there? I mean, with animals such as the Sea Emperor or the Sea Dragon that are already colossal, it would be really hard to imagine something that could be even bigger, yet we know animals like that existed in the past. So, is there a possibility that there are still some larger animals down in the void? Well, today we're going to be talking about that theory specifically, and of course, we're going to be looking at it from the lore perspective, because gameplay-wise we do know that there is no large leviathan implemented down there. However, story-wise, of course, there are arguments that support this theory and some that, on the other hand, go against it. So we'll go over both sides, and in the end you guys will be able to decide which you think is more likely. Now, of course, before we begin, I have to warn you that this video will contain spoilers from the world and story of Subnautica. So if you haven't had the chance to play it yet and you don't want any of that spoiled, I strongly recommend clicking off the video and coming back to it later. Now, with that out of the way, jump into a nice submarine, make sure you have the depth module ready so the pressure doesn't get to you, and let's go. Now, first of all, as I already mentioned, we'll be talking about the arguments that go for the theory and arguments that go up against it. So let's start with the ones that support it. First of all, we know that big animals exist in the world of Subnautica, and not only that, we also know that big animals existed in the past. Looking at the skeleton of the gargantuan leviathan in the Lost River tells us that at one point in time, even if it were millions of years ago, huge creatures of incredible and unimaginable sizes used to roam the planet and used to dominate the ecosystem. Furthermore, we also know that these creatures have had descendants which nowadays comprise species of the Sea Emperors or the Sea Dragons, so it is still definitely possible that some descendant line which hasn't shrunken down so much could still be alive somewhere in the world. On the second supporting point, it is worth noting that it is possible that Kara may not have eliminated everything on the planet and in the void. I mean, we know by the sheer nature of below zero existing that there must be some conditions under which animals are able to survive even in the presence of Kara without necessarily eating peepers. So who knows, maybe those same conditions could also apply in the void, and if not, maybe you could even make the argument that whatever big creatures live down there can simply feed on smaller leviathans which inhabit the area closer to their surface, who would consume those peepers with enzyme 42, and thus some of the healing would maybe be transferred to them, but that is a bit of a long shot. On top of all of that, we also know that there are leviathan organisms in the crater, as noted by the PDA message. However, the important thing here is the emphasis on multiple. It's not a single leviathan class organism, that being the ghost leviathan. The PDA seems pretty confident that that place would allow for survival of multiple leviathan class organisms. Now, of course, this could always just be chalked up to having enough place to move and having enough place to roam. However, I do think that it's interesting that they wouldn't simply mention the supposedly only organism that inhabits the place. And finally, of course, there is the legendary bloop, which will sometimes play below the map. If you go into the right spot, you can get this very distant roaring sound Easter egg thing, which, of course, we can't necessarily say that it is fully canon, but in my opinion, it could definitely support the theory that there is something bigger out there to be found. Now, we've covered several points that could support the fact that there is a large creature in the void, but let's play the devil's advocate for a bit and let's look at the points that would go up against it. And the first one, well, the pretty obvious one, is once again Kara itself, and the fact that it tremendously devastated and decimated the entire ecosystem, which not only affects animals directly by killing them, but also because smaller animals die out, the food chain gets disturbed and there is most likely not enough food to allow for such a big creature to exist. I mean, if you think about it logically, already a creature like that would have to consume an incredible amount of food to sustain itself, and with resources being stretched thin as is, who knows if it would even be possible. Now, the second fact that could potentially go up against this theory is the fact that there appears to be no fear within the ghost leviathans as far as going down into the depths goes. Now, we do know from their PDA entry and from how they behave that ghost leviathans are extremely territorial species, but what that would mean also is not only that they protect their territory, but they also probably respect the territory of something huge and dangerous to them. Yet in spite of all that, no matter how far away you swim from the island, these things don't really show any desire to turn around and run away from you, even if you go into some pretty ridiculous depths. Then again, on that point, you could also make the argument that there is actually a limit to how far away from the island you can swim, at which point the ghost leviathans will in fact turn around and stop pursuing you and stop spawning. So I suppose it is possible that if there is something absolutely monstrous in the water, it simply lives far enough from the island to the point where the ghost leviathans still have quite a large area to roam around. So in the end, what is the conclusion to all this? Is there something bigger lore-wise which resides outside of the crater, somewhere in the pitch dark depths, simply waiting for something to swim close enough to it so it can snatch it, never to see the light of day again? Well, we don't know. There are arguments which could both support the theory and which can go up against it. So this is the point where I'm going to ask you guys to please let me know what you think and which theory you personally support down in the comments below. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and hopefully have at least something new to think about before the release of Subnautica Below Zero. If you liked the video, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. And once again, if you want to express what you thought about the theory, or maybe there are some facts that I missed that could help weigh to either of the sides, make sure to leave those in the comments as well. I would very much like to read them. And with that, I want to wish you all a beautiful rest of today, and I'll see you all in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.